guy needs a rewiring. He's so set in his ways. He's 8 years old.
Okay. Sure.
Pickles, no.
Before we get started, we put on the website, we put on the consultation form, we start recording training sessions, receptions, and consultations. Okay. So, human aggression?
Yeah.
Okay.
Clearly. Pickles, no. No.
He's friendly around people he knows.
Sure.
He's usually pretty good out in public, you know, but he's, you know, he kind of wants to kind of go after people and other dogs. He's not like, he doesn't go like crazy, but when something gets within a close proximity, he kind of, you know, goes off.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's very anxious and nervous.
Is this only like when you have him on leash, or is it like if people come into the home,
We don't necessarily have a ton of people over, so I don't know. But I feel like
it would be a problem if strangers were in the home and he was off leash.
Yeah, I feel like that would be an issue. That's what I'm worried about the most.
do you not have people come over because of his behavior, or is it just because, you know, COVID or whatever?
We've always kind of been that way. Our family's kind of like antisocial,
Sure,
so not that
yeah.
many people come over to begin with.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just always been that way.
Sure. And how long have you had him for?
8 years.
So since he was 2 months, or?
Yeah, since he was a baby.
And when did this behavior pop up?
Pretty much when he left puppyhood, I mean, he was always kind of.
Yeah, it was just
nipply.
like a couple weeks after we got him where he was just a little tiny baby and then he snapped at someone that was just trying to pet him and we're like,
He was probably taken away from his mother, you know.
Too
just
early,
didn't
yeah.
get that, you know, structure.
this is a Craigslist puppy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Craigslist puppies need homes too.
Yes.
Okay. Has he ever made contact?
Oh, yeah, he fights us all the time.
Well, not all the time, but
He
when
used
he's
to.
protecting like a bed of his, like or a toy, that well, usually not toys, but like usually for whatever reason bedding. If he can get territorial and kind of you get close and kind of nips it.
Yeah.
He's never like drawn blood or but
No, he has.
well, not on me, but I mean other people. Your aunt when he was a puppy, she was like trying to hold him and she
Like,
bit him in
yeah,
the face.
He drew blood with me and my mom. I don't know about Lauren, but he has, and he'll still bite. Like if my mom moves, he sleeps on her bed. He'll like bite her foot. He's bitten my foot before too. So.
When you talk about bite, I mean, it was like puncture or just like scratching, like drawing blood?
But my mom bleeds easily, so I think, like, I don't know. But for me, I feel like if he did bite, like, he would draw blood.
Okay.
It's just like a quick snap. He's not like repeatedly trying to, you know, gouge at somebody.
Well, I don't know. We know how to, like, get away from him.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but he just, like I said, he's like, you can tell he's trying to guard his space, and he's not like going after somebody, but it's like you cross that line and, you know, come after you for a split second.
Sure. And then you said when you walk he's dog reactive as well on the leash outside?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's usually not like hyper aggressive. Like if a dog gets really close to him, like maybe he will like get triggered and bark a little bit. But like if a dog's like walking by on the other side of the street, he's not like barking and going crazy over it.
Did you have any dog friends?
He's a lone guy and we feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
We want to get to the point where he can be socialized around other dogs and people and kids and not have to worry about them. But
Yeah.
you know, it's gonna take a lot to get in there, but that's what we want because we don't really have another option.
Okay. What were you saying, something?
He went to puppy school twice and failed, and then we took him to training. And even when he was like in the training, they said that he still was like a lone soldier.
Okay. Like in the sense of, was he, when he was in training, was he around other dogs interacting? Or like not interacting, but like loose, he just chose not to do anything?
Both. He would always stay by me and my mom. He wouldn't really veer off too much, and then I was also really nervous to have him veer off because I know he bites. So it's more so like I don't want to bring other dogs around or other people around just because I'm scared that he's gonna bite and I don't want to have him put down. That's like my biggest worry.
Aside from you and your mom, has he made contact with anybody else?
Anyone like outside the family? No.
No, because you just keep rolling.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And then what's inspiring you to start now?
My parents are moving, so they're not taking, so he's currently staying in the suburbs, and I'm gonna have to take him, and.
He's lived there most of his life.
Yeah.
Basically. We took him overnight. This is my sister-in-law. My wife is running errands right now, but we took the dog overnight. We live in a 4-flat walk-up, and he was pretty good. We walked him around the neighborhood. I mean, they still, you know.
I live in a big.
It was better than we thought it would be. I think partially, he's obviously a little overweight, and which is, their parents were just feeding him junk they shouldn't be feeding.
Yeah. So
I think something that kind of helps him is just when he's probably was never getting enough exercise, and dogs, they burn off some energy. They're probably a little more docile, I guess.
So we're taking him because my parents are moving, and he is in the suburbs now, and he's gonna have to adjust to being around people, being in the city.
Oh, that's a big change.
Yeah, and I want to do it the most humane way possible because my parents were kind of just like, we're moving, you take him now, and that's not.
He would occasionally he was peeing in the house, I think, on occasion, with no rhyme or reason.
Wait, at your place?
No, your parents' house, that's what they were saying. But he usually, since we had him here overnight, he went to the bathroom outside the whole time. He didn't make a mess anywhere in our house, so. I don't know.
And then, so your goals are trying to get him to be social around people with dogs?
I mean, whatever's comfortable with
Safe to the
him.
point where he's not a liability.
Right. I just don't want him to, it's not that I want him to be like a people person, I just don't want him to be so scared. I don't want him to fight anyone.
Yeah, we just want the vast majority of the aggression out of him if it's possible.
I just want him to be
He doesn't have to, I know he's, since he's already 8, he's pretty set in his ways, but.
Have you guys had dogs before?
Yeah.
Growing up, my parents had a couple dogs. They had a boxer and then a lab mix, so I'm familiar with being around dogs.
Okay, and how about you?
Yeah, we always had dogs.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's about it.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do here is, I have to get a feel for his level of aggression.
Sure.
Because that's what I have this here for.
Sure.
So you just keep your leash how you have it, like that.
Yeah, keep him tight.
And then I'm gonna make contact with him. If you see him panic or anything like that, it's normal.
Yeah.
See what?
If he panics.
Oh, yeah.
If he pees or poops, that's also normal, but it's gonna tell me where his aggression is coming from.
Yeah.
It sounds like he has a resource card in territorial type aggression. And I'll have you actually go to move your water bottle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Put this all the way over here.
Aww.
Okay, come back, Pickles. Come on.
All right, okay.
Pickles.
So here we're not gonna talk. Go ahead and pull them out in front of you. Yep.
Yeah, that's not snap.
It's okay. One moment. So those are good fights, but there's not a lot of intensity. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably put him at about 3 to 4. Like he's doing definitely a good fight.
Yeah.
But I can feel how he bites through the sleeve, and the intensity is like 3 to 4-ish.
Okay.
After a bit, he just stopped, right? And then not until I went over the head did he start to do it again.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to aggression, I'm assuming you guys did like research on me, how I train methods I use.
Yeah, we're perfectly fine. Yeah, he's had shock collars before, it's fine.
Okay, so here, he's just an asshole.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. We've always said it, yeah.
Yeah.
He's just entitled and, yeah.
Yeah, so there's like dogs that are fear-based, there's dogs that are anxiety, nervous-based, there's
Okay.
territorial,
Yeah.
and then there's dogs that just kind of jerks, right?
Yeah,
And he's jerk because he's gotten away with it
Yeah,
for
yeah.
so long.
sure.
Yeah.
And we have confidence and false confidence, right? We have dominant and domineering.
Yeah.
A dominant dog really doesn't care until you, how do you say, directly affect them.
Yeah.
You know, a domineering dog is a dog that thinks they're confident because of successes they've had in the past, but they're really not a confident dog. A confident dog knows they're confident, just like a confident person,
Yeah.
right? Like me, like I don't care about stuff, you know, unless it directly impacts me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just the one thing I wanted to point out that I forgot to tell you was okay. So my parents' lab mix. He was just a very gentle, loving dog. He was about a little over 100 pounds, and then they met and socialized in their house several times back when we had him before we had to put him down from old age, and they got along pretty well. He kind of like terrorized the big dog a little bit, but at the same time Leroy was so big that he just didn't care. Like he didn't view him as threatening. And there were times where he was like subservient and he like got down like on all fours, like like okay, this dog could eat me. I'm gonna surrender to you.
In response to the
Just the big, the big dog wouldn't hurt a fly, but just the size, he realized that like okay, this dog is in charge of me basically.
Okay. So, when it comes to like dominant and domineering, dominant dog knows they're confident, is confident, doesn't really care about stuff. Domineering dog, let's say that this guy, you try to touch his bed, he snaps on you, you back off, he's like, oh, it didn't work.
Yeah.
And even insecure dogs can have confidence, but it's false confidence because obviously you don't want to get bit, so you pull away and you think you won.
Yeah.
And you repeat that over the course of time, and then you get like a guy like this.
Yeah.
Right? So if he did that to like my pit, for example, in my pit, I used to socialize aggressive dogs. I've had her since she was 3 months old. She was my right-hand dog. She was just biting my butt.
Yeah, I just never had that. And
Exactly.
we're assuming that
Yeah.
he was taken away from the
And we all hear stories of the damage that pit bulls can inflict in bad situations. So.
So, and she's not aggressive. She's just correcting him, saying like, hey, if you're gonna bite me, I'm gonna bite you right back because I'm not a dog who can do that to you.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's kind of like with people. Let's say somebody who's a bully tries to bully the wrong person, they're gonna just get put in their place,
Yeah.
right? So the same thing here is no one's like,
He takes what he can get away with, basically.
Yeah. So that's why I have to stay there for a bit, because an aggressive dog won't stop. They don't give up. They just keep going, okay? This guy,
He's a mild case.
exactly, like he's like right in the middle, and then he gave it up, and not until I went over the top, which is more pressure for him, did he re-engage again, okay? Also, when I stood up and I started snapping my fingers, I don't know if you saw him posture with his right paw up, that can mean 2 things. It can be a striking pose, but it can also mean I'm unsure, okay? So, same thing when I'm making contact with him, he was lifting his paw, so he's like, oh, like, this is happening, right? So he's becoming unsure about the situation. Now there, even though he bit several times, he doesn't really win there because I stayed there, right? I didn't
back off.
right? So he's like, okay, I'm giving you the ace up my sleeve, and you're not backing away. So that's why I waited for him to settle before I pulled back. Because if I would have pulled back as he was biting, that would be a different.
Yeah, you think he won the situation.
Correct. So that's why we keep the pressure on.
Yeah.
So here, when it comes to like correcting this type of stuff, I can't make him social if he's not social.
Right.
That's just if he was born genetically that way.
Yeah.
That's just how he is.
Yeah.
Nothing good or bad. It is what it is.
Right.
Sure.
The minimum that I really care about is just coexistence.
Yeah.
If people come over, don't bite them.
Right.
Don't terrorize them. A friend comes over with the dog, don't terrorize the dog, right? Don't lunge or bark at people on the street or dogs on the street, whatever.
Yeah.
If someone randomly touched him on the street, I would expect he'd probably bite them. Okay, but that's not on him. That's on the person.
Yeah.
And it actually happened yesterday. I was just talking to someone that their dog, they were walking. They have an Aussie, and some older lady passed by and said, "Oh my God, look at you, cutie!" and just went to touch him,
Yeah.
and he snapped and started barking. Right?
I can totally see him doing that.
Yeah.
So that's completely different. And it doesn't matter if your dog is social or not social. I mean, imagine if you're on the street and you're walking and someone just randomly started touching you, like,
Yeah,
oh, hey,
you're like, you have no clue who you are,
Right?
you're part of it.
Yeah, so it's the same thing for dogs, but unfortunately, there's this thought process that dogs should love everyone and everything, and if your dog doesn't, they're out the norm. That's not really how that works.
Right,
okay?
exactly.
So realistically speaking, I wouldn't care about people randomly on the street. People coming in the home, people that he would be around repeatedly, other dogs he would be around repeatedly, that's a different story. Okay, that is expected, like, yeah, you should be able to at least coexist with these people, okay?
Yeah.
So, as you know, I use remote collar, and it's the most effective tool in my opinion, especially when we're dealing with aggression, because it allows me to essentially fight the dog back for biting me, but he doesn't relate it to anything. He relates it to his behavior. Okay, so like let's say he tries to bite and I correct him with the prong collar, which is the spike hitting collar, okay? Which is it's meant to mimic a dog bite. So if I go to touch him and he bites me and I correct him with the prong collar, he may stop biting me and learn not to bite me, but it's me with the prong collar. Does that make sense? He sees me pulling the leash and he goes, oh, okay, you will directly correct me for that behavior, so I'm gonna respect you.
Yeah.
But then how do you transfer it to somebody who doesn't know how to correct with the prong collar?
Right.
Okay? So that's where e-collar comes into play. So if I go to pet him, he starts biting me and you're pressing the button and you stop him, he doesn't know who did it.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? And it's super simple. All it requires is you have it at a certain setting, or you would raise the setting if it's not working and you press a button. Okay? So, and I help you figure all that stuff out. So aversives are meant to stop things. So like him snapping and biting at people, right, has led to things. Has led to like, okay, if you get near my bed, you've now learned, or when he's in his bed, you've learned like, leave him alone.
Yeah.
If he has an object, you're like, all right, leave him alone. So that aversive of him snapping or biting at you is taught you like, all right, just leave him alone if he has something, or leave him alone when he's in his dog bed, okay? That's an aversive. So here we have to apply that same psychology back, because this isn't about him like, this is him just being a jerk. He's gotten away with it a lot, and his ego has been inflated. And now he's just like, all right, well, whenever I don't want something, or whenever I don't like you with something that you're doing, I'm gonna just do this to get a response from you, okay? So here, when we do this stuff, this is what we would call like touch sensitivity. He doesn't like being touched, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna touch him, right? We gotta get him over that mental hump. But at the same time, we're gonna correct him. So like right now, he didn't win, but he also wasn't corrected. So if I see him the next time and I repeat this, he's probably gonna start biting again, okay? Until we start to apply aversives and he thinks, all right, if I bite you, this thing goes off, and if I don't bite you, nothing happens. He's gonna continue with the behavior, okay? And then we see what we can achieve with that. So once a dog's been quote unquote bitten, it changes their perception of the world, okay? So growing up, I was raised old school. I was spanked. So when my mom used to say that, don't do that, it was just like, don't do that, until I got spanked. Now don't do that has a totally different meaning, right? Because now there's another consequence. So the whole saying of, you can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk, right? Yeah, you can talk about it, but are you really gonna back up what you're saying, right? It's the same thing with consequence. If I say, hey, don't touch my stuff or I'll kick your ass, and I don't kick your ass, well then you know like you can get away with touching my stuff, right? So same thing for dogs. So here, he's like, hey, I'll bite you, right? He gave warning, and I touched him, and he's like, all right, here it is, right? So he's walking that walk, so I have to do that right back, and then in order for him to go like, oh, okay, like this is the thing that I can't do, okay? Now, when it comes to aggression, people tend to think we come in and we just slam the dog, okay? We don't do that. That's not how it works. Have you guys ever been to a chiropractor, physical therapist?
I'm familiar with them, I've never been.
Do you know what a TENS unit is?
TENS unit?
TENS unit? Nope.
Oh, no.
Okay. So a TENS unit is a device that has like circles they put on your muscles.
Oh, the
It has the
box.
wires, yeah, and it
Okay.
pulses your muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an e-collar, okay, at least like a more professional grade e-collar.
Uh-huh.
It feels just like a TENS unit.
Okay.
So it's a level of discomfort, okay? Our collars have 0 to 127 levels, okay, in increments of 1. Older collars had like 10 levels. So like 10 and 127 would be the same, I just happen to have 117 more divisions, okay? So I can really fine tune it. Whereas before, if you were at 5 and he was yelping and 4 he wasn't listening, you would be stuck. He's either yelping or not listening, right? So here, 60, 40, 50, 51, 49, I can dial it in to the dog's personality type, their size, the situation, are they being aggressive, are they non-aggressive, all that stuff, okay? So here we always start low. And essentially I'm using that e-collar to bite him when he's displaying a behavior I want to deter, okay? So when we work on these kinds of things, the first thing we have to do is teach him what the e-collar is. It's like a line of communication, if you will. People tend to think of it as like just this thing that you just shock your dog, you know, and it's actually meant to communicate, okay? And you can teach them to do stuff, and they can teach them not to do stuff. The to do stuff would be like the obedience stuff, right? Sit, stay, come. The don't do stuff would be like don't bite, don't jump, don't bark, you know, don't whine, don't cry, don't chew on the bed, don't snap at me when I go to walk past your dog bed. That's all the don't stuff, right? That's typically behavior. So here, it's a blend of both, because we have to use obedience to help him learn what the communication is, so that when we apply it to the behavior, he understands there's a way to turn it off, okay? So like I get people here that train their own dog with e-collar, and they tend to do punishment-based training, which is if the dog doesn't do it, we just hit them hard, and it makes the dog very anxious because they don't know why it's happening or where it's coming from. Okay, so they don't know how to turn it off, which just causes them to stress out. Here, the way we start is we always teach the dog how to walk well on the leash using the heel command, because that's how we layer in the e-collar. Okay, so we call it pressure, and the concept is pressure on, pressure off. Okay, pressure on when we need him to do something, pressure off once he complies. Okay. So here, technically, when I went into his personal space, that's pressure. That's what we would call like a spatial pressure, because I'm coming right into this zone, and I make contact with him, right? So he goes under pressure, he's under stress, he goes to bite, I also response, right? So once I provoked that, I kept the pressure on, and then once he stopped biting, I took the pressure off. Okay, so that he learned, okay, I can try to bite you, but you're not gonna back off, you're not phased, but as soon as I chill and don't bite you, you take the pressure off, okay? So that's technically a form of pressure. There's also like, you guys drive?
Yeah.
Have you been on the expressway?
Yeah.
Have you ever had it where you're driving and someone's real close to you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right?
Tailgate.
Yeah, so they make you feel a certain way, right? So it makes you uncomfortable because they're so close to you, so you might speed up, you might switch lanes, you might not do anything, or you might brake check, right? They're doing that to garner a response from you. Whether or not it's the response they want is a totally different thing, right? So e-collar is another form of pressure, okay? So when we're pressing that button, he's feeling that contraction, and we're putting him under pressure, and we're wanting a response, okay? So like, have you ever pulled up and pushed down to make a dog sit before?
Yeah.
Yep, that's pressure, right? You pulled up and you pressed down, so you put physical pressure on the dog, and once the dog gave you what you wanted, you release the pressure, you praise, the dog gets back up, you pull up, you push down, they sit back down, you let the pressure go, okay? So same concept here. So we teach him, because e-collar is not natural to dogs, their necks are not meant to be contracted, is we need something that he's gonna feel on a regular basis to condition him what it is, okay? Because if I just come in here and target the aggression, there's nothing that you're gonna be practicing regularly to keep the discipline in play, okay? So like for us, we know running a red light, as long as there's red lights in existence, is against the law. And you will get a fine or you'll go to jail or whatever, right? We know that. He doesn't. So like, let's say I'm making biting people against the law, right? He has to be reminded of consequence on a regular basis in order to keep himself in check. Because if I just come in and correct the aggression, and then I leave, and then he goes 2 weeks without any kind of consequence for other things.
Yeah, he'll make no progress.
Exactly, he's just gonna think, okay, consequence is gone, now I can go back. So if you watch like end of world movies or TV shows, there is no law, right? It's like every person for themselves and all that stuff. It's chaotic, it's anarchy, right? Because there's no laws in play. There's no authorities to reinforce those laws. So same thing with this guy. If there's not constant structure in play, he's gonna go, all right, well I got corrected a couple of times, but I haven't had anything for the last, 2 months. So what happens if I try to fight somebody today? And he tries, and of course, he learns I can get away with it. So here, the obedience is more so to keep structure in play, so that he's aware that that is a thing that's in existence that's not going to go away.
Right.
Okay. But then also, you have to, what's the word? Oversee him. Think of it. So he's in his mind, he's a 3 to 4 year old child. And he will be like that for the rest of his days. That's his learning capacity, right? So we would never expect a 3 to 4 year old child to like one day mature and get a job and pay for the bills and stuff. They have to be told what to do. Go get dressed, go get cleaned up, eat your dinner, eat your peas, right? All that stuff. But that child would mature 5, 8, 12, 18, 21, right? And we get older and we get independent. But if we take a person who's like mentally handicapped and they're stuck at a 3 to 4 year old child age mentally, right? They may look like an adult, but mentally they're incapable.
Stunted, yeah.
Exactly, they're incapable. We wouldn't expect them to be able to get a job and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So same thing for this guy, because people always ask, like, well, if you're so good at this, and if this works so well, why do I have to keep, like, how'd you say, overseeing my dog? Because it's a dog.
Consistency.
Yeah, and he's a 3 to 4 year old child. And it's not that you're always having to do stuff with them. It's just if no one is in charge, in his instinct, someone has to be.
Yeah.
So if you guys are like, okay, we're gonna let him be, and he's like, okay, you guys are in charge.
He'll take the reins.
Exactly, he's gonna fill that role, okay?
Yeah.
And that's just his natural instinct. In every situation that you're in, there's always a dominant energy. We're just not aware of it anymore. So like right now, the dominant energy would be me, because you have a need, you're looking for knowledge, and I have that, right? But like, let's say a fire broke out and a firefighter came in. I wouldn't have that dominance anymore. It would transfer to the firefighter because he's the one in that moment that has the knowledge and skills that we need to get us out safely. So every time, and if you watch like people talking outside, people watching whatever, there's in conversations you'll see dominant energy versus submissive energy. It's typically the person that's talking, and you see everybody looking at them. That would be the dominant energy, and then if they stop talking, somebody else spoke, it would just transfer over to them. So it's very fluid. So dogs live in this world where they're constantly kind of jumping in and out of roles if needed. Okay, so but you're permanently in that role, and that's what's going to help keep him well behaved. So here with the guy like this, what determines cost, length of time, and everything is simply like how much you're trying to achieve. Okay, walking outside past people, past dogs, not being a problem. I don't care what the proximity is, whether if it's on the sidewalk next to you, or you're like, if someone just comes up and stands right next to you, not assuming like, oh, the dog's probably gonna try something, especially when you're in the city, is that he's in check, he keeps himself contained, he doesn't try to pull anything. People coming over, there's a couple of things. One would be, we just want him to coexist. Right? Don't terrorize the guests coming over. The next thing would be, okay, he's not terrorizing people, he's coexisting, but we would like to see if he's capable of opening up. Okay? Now, we can try that. I just can't guarantee that I can make that happen.
Right? Yeah.
And it's more realistic in the sense that if it's people that he's going to see on a regular basis, that's something that can happen. Whether or not he let these people like pet him is again another thing. Right?
He doesn't like being pet anyways, so it's not like a huge deal.
And what about with you guys?
Even with it, like he's like whatever about it. He doesn't like.
Yeah, he's like,
he's not like a cuddly.
It's a little different right now, but
It doesn't faze him. It's not like he comes to us like, please pet me. Like some dogs are
he's
very.
pretty independent.
Yeah, like some dogs are kind of.
I mean, he appreciates it, but not as much as most dogs for sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So, cause I get dogs that don't even let the owners pet them. I'm like, yeah, your dog just is not that kind of dog. So, but it's easy to push these things. It's I teach you how to do it, and then you just do it. Okay, and like for instance, one of my first cases I had was a fear aggressive pit bull, and they used to have a very social life. They used to have people over about 3 to 4 times a week. So once we got her over all that stuff, I was like, here's the exercise. I showed it to them with their friends over and all that stuff, and I said, just rinse and repeat. Okay, and they got her over that really quick because they had people over 3 to 4 times a week, and they would have multiple people over at a time. So I think within a month, 2 months of learning that exercise, they got her over the fear, and she started opening up to people. But if it's slower, if it's like once a month or once every other month or something like that, probably may not happen. Or if it does happen, you're looking at like a long time frame before he kind of gets over that. So in terms of what I would suggest for him, because I really only approach this with like, I look at what you're wanting and needing.
Sure.
I'm not going to really teach extra stuff if you're not going to use it.
Sure.
So he definitely needs to learn how to walk with the e-collar on leash, okay, with the heel command. It's typically 2 classes. Once we cover those 2 classes, then we can start delving into like the behavioral stuff, okay? I really feel that's just probably going to be a class, maybe 2, Because I feel like once he starts being corrected for his aggressive response, he's gonna put himself in check pretty quick, okay?
Okay.
So then the thing becomes, okay, he's not biting Jesse when he touches him. Do we want to be able to see if he'll open up to other people, okay? And touches is kind of like a part of that process. If you go, not really a big deal, we just want him to coexist and not have to worry about him, then it removes something that we don't have to work on, okay? The next thing I'd probably do, so that's 4 classes potentially, is stationary control, which is like, so this dog bit here, if we send a dog bit there, they won't move for like hours, okay? So if people are coming over, and let's say your guests have had experiences with him, and they're like, yeah, you know, could you put your dog away or whatever, you have a means of control. Well, he's gonna be stationary, and as long as they ignore him, and he's not gonna bother them. Okay, and then he's not going to move for 2 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, 30 minutes, whatever length of time you're needing. He's under control, and that kind of just takes off, like, where is he at, you know? Because if he's walking around the place loosely and someone comes in and they're walking around and he's like, he's like suspicious of them, he'll probably target them and try to like follow them around at some point, or maybe they walk around the corner and he's there, and you might need an interaction, you know? So that would be a class. People coming into the home, if you feel like that's something you want to cover, that's something that we teach as well. Because if somebody knocks and he starts barking and all that stuff, his response is natural, like he's being territorial. But then if it goes unaddressed, that territorial behavior is more than likely is going to fuel aggressive responses when the people come in. Okay, so we have to settle him down and chill him out before your guest comes in, so he's not in that kind of heightened state. Otherwise, you're for sure probably going to see some kind of aggressive response. Okay. So I have 6, 9, and 12 week programs. That would be like a 6-week course right there. Okay, so I'm really prioritizing the behavior or things that I know that you would need that would come into effect or that you would be able to use to either prevent situations from happening or stopping situations when happening. Okay, because it's a mix of both. You can't prevent everything. Sometimes you might have to intervene as somebody's actively doing something and kick in with control. Questions about any of that stuff so far?
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward.
You're more than welcome to do 9 or 12 classes as well. If you did that, one, it would just add a bigger buffer as a variable for the behavioral stuff. Otherwise, if he's doing really well, I just teach more obedience type control. Walking on a leash and recall are 2 most important. If you don't feel like he's ever going to be off leash or anything like that, I mean, it's not really
probably not
important to you. The other commands would be sit down and stay, which place command essentially is like a sit down, sitter down command, stationary control. So yeah, 9 or 12 is just kind of like a bigger buffer for the behavioral stuff, but I don't think you need it. I think with the 6 you'll be fine if your main concern is just the aggressive behavior. The heel and the place allow you to practice structure and consequence, so it keeps it in his head like, okay, I can't get away with stuff anymore. And then the rest of it is really just knowing how to correct him. Okay, so behavior is simple in the sense that it's just like, don't do that. Obedience is more complicated because we have to teach the dog something that they're not meant to do. He's not meant to sit, he's not meant to down, he's not meant to come when you call him, he's not meant to walk on a leash. That's why obedience, I teach you to teach him, and then you have to go off and you practice for the week and come back and we build on that, okay? But behavioral stuff, you know, like, you guys ever touch hot stove?
Oh yeah.
You want to do it again?
No.
Right? That's not technically behavior, right? You accidentally touch something, or and you were burned, and you're like, okay, that sucked. I know when that thing is on, I need to be more careful, right? That's the power of aversives. And behavior is it's really meant to just deter things. So once we find a number to him that is concerning, and he's like, you know what, I tried to bite you, but 65 isn't worth it. We start to see that behavior go down. And then it's working to different contexts, so then not just one person. If you wanted to work with a lot of people, it's easy because it's the same exercise, and I teach you how to do it, but then you have to then repeat it with those that will be around it, if you want, okay? If that is also a thing that you might want to do. muzzle conditioning, if he's not already muzzle conditioned as it is?
He will not, it takes a lot to get a muzzle on him, and yeah. I've maybe been able to do it a couple times, but he knows, like, I don't like this, don't put it on me.
Have you ever conditioned him to it though?
No. I
You just
don't.
try to put it on?
Yeah, I just try to put it on.
Yeah, that's why.
Mhm.
Or potentially why. Because he's not meant to have his mouth covered,
Right.
right? It's also taking away his primary source of defense, which is his mouth. So we do what's called muzzle conditioning, which is to get the dog comfortable with wearing the muzzle before we require them to wear the muzzle, okay? We usually do that with food, which you can use his kibble. You don't have to use treats or anything like that. So when I muzzle condition dogs, I only use their kibble and I remove everything else. So all that dog is going to eat while I'm conditioning is only kibble or their daily food, whether it's raw or kibble or whatever, from that muzzle. If they decide not to eat from the muzzle, they don't eat. I put it away, come back later, here's your meal, don't want to eat from it, fine, put it away. Keep repeating that. Come day 5, the dog goes, I'm very hungry. There's that food in that muzzle thing that I don't like. And dogs are smart, you'll see them grab some kibble, pull them out the way, drop it on the ground and eat on the ground, muzzle disappears. Dog comes back, hey, it disappeared. So now they're learning, if I pull my mouth away from that muzzle, it's gonna go away. So then it's gonna incentivize them to keep their mouth in the muzzle, okay? And that's what we're trying to do here, get them used to just eating from it. And once they've eaten so many meals from it, we start to go to clasping it, and we start to go to like clasping it, having more around the house for a bit, walking around with it for a little bit on the walk, just to get them exposed to it. It's just another thing that he wears, you know, like a collar or whatever. So if you're trying to push for more, the muzzle's definitely gonna come into play. Because if you're trying to tell a friend like, hey, like, come pet them, we're training them. They're like, not if you can bite me, right? So, because this will only work for so long. We have to start pressing them with like hands and stuff like that. And then it's just repeating the process. It's pretty simple. It's just, it takes time and lots of repetitions to get them to a point where you feel like you can trust them. I think you mentioned earlier about like having him around and like not worrying if he's gonna do anything. And that's
maybe it's like best case scenario over time, probably. Right? I mean, like I'm not trying to just be realistic, and you're telling me, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, the thing about like with that is, remember you're always overseeing, right? So I look at it as I'm not worried because I have control of the dog, right? But at the same time, I'm not worried because if he tries to do something, I have the means to stop it. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's more so like that as opposed to, hey, he's like a friendly puppy and he's just like, oh no, I don't have to worry about him because he just doesn't care about the thing. So that's more of the realistic standpoint on it, is you'll have control, but then also you'll be able to stop things if needed, okay? Questions about any of that stuff?
I think the most concerning, as opposed to like socializing, I'm worried like when he goes to the vet, we have to pay like $200 or $300 to get his nails clipped because he has to take anesthesia. Yeah, so that's another thing. So people being like close to him when we don't have the ability to like oversee, I guess.
Yeah. So the problem with that is the vets and vet techs. Okay. So like, let's say we did the work. So I have a guy here who's like 20 times this guy. Okay.
Wow. What type of breed is that? Really? 20?
Yeah. He's intense. You can see his video on my YouTube. Just search Doug.
How much does the dog weigh roughly?
Oh, he's 80 pounds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's a big guy.
You're talking about just like head size and bite for it. When you say 20 times.
The behavior.
Oh, okay.
His aggression.
That's what you mean.
Yeah. His intensity. They're worlds apart. And if you want to like get a reference point, if you just look up on YouTube, my YouTube Doug, you'll see him. And he's made for such an extreme case, we've come a long way. So when it comes to the clipping stuff, there's also the variable of the human. So like we get dogs here that are fine here, but at any other daycare, they don't do well. But it's because of how we handle dogs here. We get dogs here that maybe at the vet, they'll have issues, being handled, but they're fine here. Because of how it works. Like the dog is actually one of them. You know, they would have to send them on a bunch of drugs, trazodone, gabapentin, like some other one. And then they also have to like put them like, I think they have to put them in anesthesia just to do like the regular, they have to sedate him. Because she took him to the vet like a few weeks ago, and she told me that it was the first time that they didn't have to put him under.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But was he still on the trazodone or gabapentin?
He is on, I think, trazodone still, but the other two she took him off of.
Okay, and trazodone is a need basis, it's not like a continual.
He takes it every day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, if you watch him, you'll be like, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's trazodone, it might be the gabapentin, but I do know he was on 3 types of anti-anxiety meds.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then because she's already planning on taking him off, because he's been doing so well.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to how they handle him and stuff like that. It is something that we can work on as well, but that's also a thing that just takes time.
Yeah.
So he's not meant to have his like nails trimmed or anything like that. Like that's a human thing, right? That we've created.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not necessary? Well,
I mean,
think
just
It's like necessary, but like I don't hold it against him that he doesn't
like
like.
it.
Sure,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
because it's not natural.
it's
to
a
him.
human invention.
Exactly. Now, him walking past people on the street is natural. He should be able to do that, right? So when it comes to the nail trimming, there's a couple of answers there. One, it is something that we could work on. Actually, just was one of us with another client yesterday. That would put you more in the 9 class range, okay? Because it's going to take time, and I will teach you, give you the steps, and then every day you leave and you do that for a few weeks, and then you come back. We're ready for stage 2. Teach you the stuff. You go back. You practice it for a few weeks. Come back for stage 3, and I do that. By that point, we can clip his nails and stuff. You may not like it, but it's to a point where you can do it. But I wouldn't expect it to transfer to others, okay? Because the work's related to you.
Yeah, if we're able to do it, that's even more ideal.
Yeah. So the other option would be there are a couple of ladies that that have a grooming service if anybody wants to grooming, we take the dogs to.
Yeah, okay.
And they handle difficult dogs. I've sent them, it was actually a dog a bit smaller than him who had issues, and they handle the dogs well. So possibly after doing the training and stuff, they'll be able to do it there.
Yeah.
Okay, and I've sent them a couple of Charleston dogs, and they've done well.
Okay.
Okay, so that's another option for you. Okay. Other questions so far?
No. Well, I guess I do have a question. So he stays in the suburbs for now. The reason why he gets away with a lot of stuff is because when I would try to train him, the consistency with my parents, they just don't do it.
I'm sorry, I hate to interject. My wife is a high school teacher. In 4 weeks, she has a summer break coming up, and then it might be more advantageous for that period if we can take him. But the big if that we're very concerned about is we already own 2 cats that we're not, giving up. So that's a big concern for me because like they saw each other. We put him outside on the balcony, and then we kind of held the cat so he could see from behind the glass. So there's going to be no risk there. But they were pretty chill at first, but then when my wife picked up the cat, kind of held it close to the window, then he just kind of like, snapped a little bit on the outside, and then we pulled the cat away. But the cats are really scared of him, obviously, because it's only their second time seeing him, and they're not around dogs ever.
Yeah, so I'm nervous how he's gonna act with their cats, and like, if he's staying in the suburbs, that's another concern, is that my parents are not very like on board with the training, and that's like a huge part of it.
They're not gonna follow through, I can tell you.
That's
So they don't need to follow through.
Yeah.
Because it's not a problem until he moves in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where, I really, me personally, the way I look at this is I go, I'm booked into, I think we're going into July now. Okay, so that's time. In that time, what I would do is start muscle conditioning. Because that's what's going to allow you to do so much more.
Yeah.
It's going to allow you to do the cat stuff safely. It's going to allow you to do the grooming stuff safely. It's going to allow you to socialize them with people safely. And muscle conditioning takes time. So like if it's 6 weeks before I see you, that gives you 6 weeks to work on muscle conditioning. Okay? So that's how I would think about it. I wouldn't worry about anything in the meantime behaviorally, because he's already that way as it is, so it's not gonna get worse,
Yeah.
you know? But definitely, I would say use this time frame to muzzle condition, okay?
Okay.
Now,
So he's only eating dry kibble out of there. And then,
whatever his diet is correct,
Yeah.
okay? And if he doesn't eat, he doesn't eat.
yeah, that makes sense, yeah. Because when he's really hungry, he'll eventually give in. And
Yeah, because what people tend to do is use treats and stuff, but the problem with that is
Negative
treats-
reinforcement.
Well, it's not negative reinforcement, it's not his, it's not a necessity.
Yeah.
You know, think of treats as candy.
Yeah.
We don't need candy to survive, right? We need nutrition, we need, bread, vegetables, meat, whatever, to survive. So for him, if he's like, man, it's been 4 days and I'm not getting anything, which may be difficult because I know you said they give him a bunch of junk or whatever, right?
Yeah. But I'm sure he's got some fat reserves he can burn.
Yeah. But yeah, to the best of your ability, I would just start that process. He might need a special kind of muzzle because he's a pug and he's got that shorter snout. So like, if you do get a muzzle and it's an inappropriate fit, don't worry about it. Still condition with it
Gotcha.
until you get the correct one. Okay? Because then if you're trying to wait to find the right one for him and you're just wasting time, he doesn't know like
The difference between them.
Yeah, he's just like, exactly. If he starts wearing it and it's on his face and stuff, it really doesn't matter, but it allows you to start the process. And I would focus on that now. And then once you're like in the city and stuff, it might be a little rough in the beginning because you'll have to keep separation. When it comes to the coexistence with cats, couple things. One would be with the muzzle, if he's got the collar on and you see him looking and thinking about it, you would correct him for that. Okay, so you're nipping him for like, no, don't even think about going after the cats. The other thing would be, but it doesn't sound like this is your cat's personality type, is letting the cats just kick his ass.
No, they're very scared of him for the time being. They're not going to do that.
So you're gonna have to step in for them, and then we see what happens from there essentially. But in order to get him to learn how to coexist in that social space, he just has to be put in it. Okay, but the muzzle will kind of help remove any anxieties or nervousness about like what happens, and we most likely try to find him one that he can wear for an extended period of time. So we get some dogs here that are muzzled 24/7 until we know that we can handle them safely, and then we'll remove the muzzle and they can be out and about. We can handle that as no problem. Other questions so far?
No, that's pretty good.
The collar I'd probably put him on is probably just the dog show. How much does he weigh?
I haven't put him on scale.
40 or 45 pounds.
He's lost some weight. I would imagine he's somewhere around the 40-pound mark, maybe a little bit less or more.
Okay. Because there's the dog show 280C, which is for 35 pounds and under. His aggression level is not high.
Super high.
So what the difference with all the models is the output, okay? And the output simply means how high of a number am I gonna need to stop things, okay? So if it's a smaller collar, it has a lower output, because it's meant for a smaller dog, versus a bigger collar, so then like 60 on the small collar could be like 30 on the big collar, okay? So the bigger collar is just a bit more punchier and allows us to get more with less, okay? Technically, from what I'm seeing size-wise and like just level of aggression, I feel like 280C would be fine. Maria will send you this information. If you'd rather err on the side of caution and just kind of like rather have it and not need it type of thing, there's the Dr. Black edition, which is meant for 70 pounds and over. It's perfectly safe to use on smaller dogs. I could put on my 8-pound Chihuahua, no problem. It's just again, more output from less. So like, let's say we're pressing something and maybe he's more aggressive in the home than what I'm seeing here. You have the ability to override him, okay? Because I had like Doug actually, where he's so intense in the aggression, is that the collar doesn't even phase him. And I have to, I ended up breaking it, like breaking the intensity, but it took me a lot of work even on a higher powered collar, because that's why I was like, he's an extreme case. With this guy, I don't see that, but it's kind of just there. Otherwise, if let's say we do push him in a scenario, maybe the nail grooming or whatever, where his intensity is really high, and that collar's not enough to deter him, we need more output. So then you have to like buy another collar. So that's the kind of variable there. Okay. So the Dr. Black edition is the best collar. It's the highest powered collar. It's perfectly safe to use. And then that's just kind of one less worry to have to like think about. Okay, so if you'd rather err on the side of caution, have it not need it, that's what I'll recommend. Otherwise, the adoption 280C is technically what would fit his case and what I saw so far.
Okay.
Other questions?
I don't think so.
When it comes to the collar, I mean, is that something we purchase on our own, we purchase from you, we rent from you, and how does that?
You can do either or, so you can get them on Amazon. We also sell them here. If you buy it from us within 30 days, and we check the collars before we give them to you, make sure they're charged and working fine. But if for whatever reason, if your collar is a lemon, you just return it, we exchange it, I deal with the company myself. Otherwise, if it's after 30 days, you would send it in for repair because it comes with a warranty, and then we'll provide you with the loaner, okay? If you go through Amazon, whatever, you'll just have to deal everything with Amazon. Other questions?
I mean, like cost-wise, I mean, I understand for the convenience, once you provide, probably, obviously, it's gonna probably cost a little bit more, but it's probably a negligible difference, or what do most people go with the collar? Do they prefer to get it from you?
Oh, sure, so in terms of like, it's like probably like $10 difference or whatever, because like Amazon can understand.
Probably we'll just go through you guys, it just takes the headache away.
Yeah, and then, in terms of cost, the 280C, I believe is $237 issue tax, and then the Dog Show Black Edition, I believe is just $100 more, so like $327 issue tax, if I'm remembering correctly. So, the next thing is like, a lot of people ask, when does the collar go away? When you need it, it doesn't, right? So like every time you walk him, you have the collar on, if he's inside and nothing's going on, and he's over the cat and everything, he's a great dog, you don't need it.
Yeah.
When guests are coming over and have it on, right,
Yeah.
you may need it. And it's not that you're always using it, it's just the presence of it changes his behavior.
Right.
So like, humans, like we have cops and laws and red lights and all that stuff. And expressway is like the most common example that I use is that most people don't go the speed limit on the expressway. Most people speed, but then if they see a squad car, they slow down.
They'll slow down.
Yeah, and then if they pass the squad car, they speed up again, right? That's called opportunistic behavior. So when we know there's no threat of consequence, we may push that, right? Same thing for this guy. So if he's like, hey, that collar's not on, and I'm walking outside, and I like how close that dog is, you're probably gonna see reactivity, okay? When it comes to stuff inside the house, stuff that happens when, on a regular basis, like within the home, like the cats, you guys walking past them, or any triggers that would happen in that kind of consistent context, we tend to move past the collar, okay? Because it's such a, it's a big chunk of the day. But when it's like a person is coming over and they're only over for 3 hours and it's once a month, it's such a short time frame, and it's a different kind of context because somebody's coming into the home. Your collar will be on, okay? But he knows there's a consequence that you're most likely not going to do anything. But if someone comes over, he becomes territorial, there's nothing on him. It's probably going to push the boundaries a bit, okay? So, on or off leash, the collar gives you control, so you're not having to worry about, oh crap, I'm across the room, and they're like going to pet him, right?
Yeah.
Like you have the ability to stop him, exactly. Other questions?
Moving forward from today, when do you think, scheduling wise, the next time we're meeting, or what?
That would be with Maria.
Okay.
I don't speak on my schedule because there's just
It's
so many
so
people
busy
coming
and
in.
very
Yeah.
busy.
I do know she said that we just started booking into July now. So it all depends on your availability. Most of my clientele is evening and weekends, because most people are like 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So you have daytime availability, kind of makes it a bit easier. But also, she has people ahead of you, right? So there's a line, so she got to get to everybody.
Sure.
So that's why there's that 5 to 7 business day turnaround. Same thing for onboarding. So if you're like, yeah, we're ready, it's another little wait, but she plugs you right in. And then anybody that comes after you has to wait for you to get your time in before they get their time in. You know, that's how she does it.
Sure.
So, but in the meantime, I wouldn't be discouraged like, oh, it's going to be a bit of wait. I would actually use that time in muzzle position.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
And a lot of people, I tell them this during the consultations, muzzle train your dogs, that when we start the training, we're just good to go. A lot of people treat it like a high school project. You know, they try to do it the day before, the week before.
It's really never gonna work out.
Yeah, it's a problem. And if you're booking with Maria and stuff, we have videos that we can send you. And then if you're struggling with something or whatever, you know, you can just send an email, she'll let me know, and then I'll see if I can send an email back to like help you so you can continue making that progress.
Yeah.
Because me teaching you how to muscle condition really isn't worth $175 for an hour. It's pretty simple, which is why we made the videos.
Sure.
But yeah, if you end up needing some help in the interim, just shoot us a message, and then I'll try to provide you some insight.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you said you have like a link to a muscle training video?
Yeah, so it's on my website.
Okay.
If you go, and you can ask Maria for it as well.
Okay.
But if you go to my website, you go to the FAQ section, you'll see training resources, and you click on that, and it has videos of me talking about e-collar, it has me with the muscle conditioning videos, you know, sizing collars and things like that. So it's meant to like help provide a resource for onboarding clients or people like that need the muscle condition, so you can start the process and get that going. Okay. Other questions?
The only problem I see with the muzzle conditioning is that he will learn to like, if that's his food source, maybe he might learn to like be protected and territorial over the muzzle when he's eating. So if we try to take away him, I don't know. I can see him.
Just gotta go without the food until he drops that.
Yeah, I mean, technically, yeah, I mean, that's technically correct, right? If he starts growling, I just put it away,
Yeah. I don't.
you know, and it's more so if he's eating from it and you come in,
Yeah.
is where I would expect the
Yes.
Yeah.
thing, right? But here, so maybe with the clasping part,
Oh.
but that would be something that, you know, you would shoot an email on.
Mhm.
And then what we do is typically welding gloves for guys his size,
Mhm.
so that we can do that stuff, and then the dog can try it, but it's not gonna get him anywhere.
Mhm.
But yeah, if you end up hitting a hiccup, then you just shoot me an email or shoot Maria an email.
Mhm.
She'll let me know, and then I'll try to provide an answer so you can keep.
When you say welding glove, is that like similar to a gardening glove or like a?
No,
like a
welding gloves
shape?
are thicker.
Thicker.
Yeah, welding gloves are thick.
Okay.
Yeah, garden glove.
I'm talking about
you
drop
really feel something.
dripping liquid hot metal onto your glove and not burning it.
Yeah. Yeah, we use it for all these smaller guys. We
Okay.
have to handle them.
Okay.
You get them on Amazon, I think they're like 45-ish bucks. That's how much I think I paid for mine. Anything else?
No, I think that's pretty, so okay, so just, she'll send us a link to the muscle training video, and then, the muzzle itself, like, how do we know what to buy, because you said, he's got a short snout, and you said there's.
Yeah, I have a client right now who it's in the human aggression case as well. She has a Frenchie, and Frenchies are kind of similar. So I'll ask her where she got her muzzle. It's probably gonna have to be custom fitted. But in the meantime, if you just pick up just any kind of like standard.
I think we did.
Just to get the ball rolling, it's the
Yeah.
standard one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While because you have, you know, time to like find the correct muzzle, whatever.
Mhm.
And I believe I have links on my training resources page as well, that serve as like, turns out to fit the muzzle, size muzzle.
Mhm.
I can't remember one of them was a custom muzzle. But yeah, we have information there. Okay.
Cool.
So yeah, I would put you at the 6 to 9 week range.
Okay.
9 is if you're gonna do like the grooming, the nail grooming stuff, because that's gonna be a process. So once we hit that point, it would be like we have class 7, I show you how to do it, and then you go off and you do that for like a month.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna take time.
Okay.
Then you bring them back, where are we at? Here's the next phase. Take them, come back a month later, 2 months later, whatever, okay, where are we at? Okay, here's the last bit. And then, until, you know, done, so.
Okay. I'm excited for you. I'm hopeful.
Thank you so much for, taking us and telling us that, I'm happy to hear that you said that, just his aggression level is pretty mild and he's mostly a jerk over anything else.
Yeah.
No. And he let it go, like, I'm here in front of him and he's not staring me down or anything.
Yeah.
If you want, how would you say, a visual difference, like just go on my YouTube channel, search Doug, and you'll see what I mean.
Yeah.
And it helps you just kind of put it in perspective, like, oh, okay, like, this is what we're doing, like,
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as you follow through with the homework, there shouldn't be any issues. That's the biggest problem that I have with my clients is that, let's say he does need a higher number to stop the aggression, is that it's funny because I've had dogs even bite the owners, and the owner will still feel bad about correcting their dog with e-collar even though the dog is bit them. And I'm just like, but the dog bites you. Like, why do you feel bad?
Yeah.
So, because we're not doing it to like hurt the dog, we're doing it because we're trying to fix something. There's a mythology to it, Well, not mythology, methodology to it.
Yeah.
Not enough copy to it. But yeah, So Maria will get in touch with you. Feel free to shoot her an email.
Okay.
Like, hey, we'd like to do the 9 or whatever. Please send us the information.
Mhm.
Don't worry if there's a delay. Give her about 5 or 7 business days because we're just swamped. I opened up my other trainer and he's booked too.
The only difference between the 6 and 9 weeks, besides the time and the cost difference, would be like there's a list of people and you're very busy, so correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm assuming that if you say, okay, let's start with 6 weeks, then you can still later do the 9 weeks, but it just could push your timetable back, or like, whereas like committing to the 9 weeks off the bat gives you a bit of a priority over a couple of, what I mean?
Yes, so what happened is if you're saying, hey, we want 9, is you would find a time with Maria, let's say it's Sunday at 11 o'clock, and every Sunday at 11 o'clock for 9 weeks plus 1, so that's 10 weeks, that is your time, and no one can take it from you, okay? If you travel, if you go out of town, something happens, you have to postpone. Once we hit week 10, if you have 2 classes left over, most likely you've already booked after your priority ends, is Maria would contact you and say, hey, your priority has ended, but you still have 2 classes left over. What's your availability? And then she'll have to fit you in when she can fit you. Okay?
Gotcha.
If you do 6, you're getting 7 weeks of priority. So if you come back at like class 5 or 6, and like, hey, we want to book 3 more, one, you would pay the cost of 3 classes as opposed to the 9, it's more expensive as opposed to committing up front. But then also you might have to wait for an opening to finish those last 3 classes. Okay? So if you commit up front, you get a lower per class rate, to make things easier on our end. But then if you do 6 and want to add 3 more, you can absolutely do that. It'll just be a little bit more expensive. And then there also might be another wait, because you're coming in trying to book 3 more. Let's say you did Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and nobody wants Tuesday at 10 o'clock, it's easy to just, okay, yeah, sure, 3 more classes, no problem. But if it's, like a weekend time or evening time, that's where things get a little bit more difficult, because we're already booking out that time.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? Other questions?
I think that covers it, yeah. So we just, Maria just kind of handles just about everything with the,
Booking.
yeah, I mean,
Scheduling, accounting, yep.
Mostly, we don't need to do too much. Like if there's information you need, she usually passes it along to you. Like, are there ever instances where you need to like reach out to us directly, or?
Yeah, so once you are invoiced and you've paid, you are now my client. I now will interact with you directly.
Okay.
In the meantime, like let's say any questions about muzzle stuff, you would talk to her, she would come back to me.
Okay.
And this just kind of, because
It expedites the process and it takes some of it, because otherwise you'd just be getting swamped with questions.
yeah, we get people on Instagram sending us questions all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys aren't clients. Like,
Yeah.
we're already busy as it is.
Yeah, you have to
and our clients are like
prioritize the people
upset
that are-
because
yeah,
we can't get
always.
to them in time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to prioritize. So she'll provide, that's why I made all those videos, because I'm like, this stuff that people can use, takes a little bit of weight off of us. But we know there's going to be exceptions.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be one of them.
Yeah.
So you would just talk to her, and she knows, like, you're a client, you're in the process. That she would email me and say, hey, they're asking for this. I would type up something or send a link to something and say you can give them this.
Okay.
And then once she's like, you're signed up, whether if you pay, but you're booked 2 months in advance and like you've paid, now you're my client, I interact with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I have, I think, 40 something clients in my calendar right now. And then we have our boarding trains, our daycare and trains, just also the standard business stuff of running a business. So I'm usually pretty busy right now. Okay?
Yeah.
We've thoroughly researched, and I believe this is, based on the fact that nothing worked in the past, and how you come with such high credentials and everything. We're very excited that we got a light at the end of the tunnel here, I think.
Yeah, no, I've seen worse. I've seen way worse.
Yeah.
And yeah, with him moving out, like, away from my parents, because they let him do whatever, basically, and feed him whatever. I've heard that
He gets away with murder. That's
when he
kind of
gets
why.
out of
it's
that
such a
environment, it'll be probably a different dog too, so I'm hoping that's the case as well.
It can be. The other thing is that you're just moving into a busier environment, which is
Could be
Also,
overstimulated.
Yeah.
I get a lot of dogs that come from the suburb that weren't reactive, that become reactive, And
Yeah.
it usually takes 2 weeks for a dog to settle in, 2 weeks to a
Yeah.
month.
Okay.
So in that time frame, in the beginning, you might feel like, oh wow, like he's changed and he's
Yeah.
calm, and then all of a sudden at the
Yeah.
2 week mark, he's a terror again. Because he's got to find his place within the home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a good adjustment going from suburbs to you guys, because they're in a more quiet area, and I'm right
You're
on
on Milwaukee, when I'm
Milwaukee
busy
Avenue and
area.
Logan Square where it's so busy.
Sure.
So that's why I'm terrified. to
Yeah,
just, like,
we're lucky on that, being close by, because we're like Elston by Kedzie, we live in a condo, there's a gated park across the street, just a very neighborhoody vibe, it's not as hectic as where you're at.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like by bars and stuff, so I'm nervous about that. I'm
That's
nervous
good.
for him.
That's down the line. Yeah.
And it's obviously like where I live accepts dogs and they have a dog run, so that's another. And I'm hoping, I don't wanna like make him a different dog, but just so he's not gonna bite anyone. If we start utilizing the dog area.
He's gonna be the same dog, he's just gonna be
Yeah.
more disciplined.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, that's all
Yeah.
that works. I mean, it's like my friend,
Yeah.
I've known him since high school, so more than half my life.
Yeah.
And, we used to go to house parties and $5 red cup, all that stuff. And then he went to the military, and he's back, and he's a drafts new people for the National Guard and all that stuff.
Mhm.
But we still drink and party, he's just a more structured guy,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's gonna
So it's
be
the same
cute.
thing with dogs, he's not
Yeah,
gonna
they all
change
have their own
personalities.
personalities.
Yeah.
Exactly, we're just
Yeah.
gonna teach them that some things are not acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay? The last thing would just be, we train either here or at Oz Park. We do also still do in-home.
Okay, that's good to know.
It just comes at a higher rate.
Yeah.
And it's harder, it's harder to schedule
Yeah.
because since most of my clientele doesn't come to me, me going somewhere else pulls me away. So then we have to find pockets.
Gotcha.
So that's why it says on my website, in-home limited availability.
Mhm.
Is because now I'm either here all day or I'm at Oz Park all day.
Mhm.
So then Maria's got to find pockets where if you want an in-home, there's going to have to be an in-home, obviously for the people coming in part and stuff like that. If you're working with me like here in the facility, what I do is I send my trainer Enrique. He's been doing my in-home visits for my like programs.
Mhm.
So like that he can do. He's done plenty of them for me.
Okay.
He's doing a great job.
Yeah.
So then it's kind of a blend where you'll be working with me in person here unless you pay for in-home, and then I go to your home.
We're lucky that we live like, probably less than a mile from here, so, if we're doing it here, like in this room, multiple rooms, or other areas, like is he better to be inside fully, or outside at a park, or how to?
So the only thing that has to be done in the home is people coming over.
Okay.
I was gonna say, could we do like 1 or 2 sessions? Is that, are you able to do this? So if we do like most sessions here and then just for maybe like the last couple or whenever you
Did you
think
pay the
it's.
extra difference for
Yeah.
in-home, like?
Yeah, so that's something I've been thinking about because people have asked about it, where there'll be
Yeah.
like an upcharge,
Yeah.
and it's just for a singular class.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would either be doable with me, or if you want to do an in-home but keep it at the same rate,
Yeah.
I just send Enrique.
Yeah, because maybe it would be good to do one in-home at your place with the cats, just so they can see how he acts, and then one once he comes to my apartment. Maybe we can do that.
Yeah, whatever you wanna do.
I think. My other comments here, guys.
Okay, no worries.
All right,
Thank
I'm
you.
over. 10 minutes,
I'll
yeah.
talk your ear off, yeah, but thank you so much.